this year, the Ukraine war has taken a decisive turn, not on the battlefield, but in the diplomatic corridors of Washington, D.C. Until last year, the US was Ukraine's #1 backer, but this year they have stepped back. Their military aid has slowed to a trickle. Instead, Washington is engaging with Russia. It is pushing for a peace deal. All of this did not really come as a surprise, but it was a big setback for Ukraine. And it had ramifications far beyond Kiev. Because for decades, the West was a unified bloc, a bloc led by the United States of America. But Trump's America wants out. And this has split the West into two parts. On one side is the United States turning inward. On the other side are the rest, the allies left behind by American policy. So these countries are now huddling together. They're building what they call the coalition of the willing, those willing to help Ukraine.
We'll be holding the Coalition of the Willing Summit next Thursday in Paris in the presence of President Zelensky. And we're finalizing our work on short-term support for the Ukrainian army, on defending a sustainable model for the Ukrainian army to prevent Russian invasions, and on the security guarantees that European armies can provide.
First, it was the UK and the European Union, and now Canada has joined the ranks. They have a new Prime Minister, Mike Carney. He was in Europe this week. He arrived in Paris for his first foreign visit, and the visit itself was a statement because Canada had chosen Europe over the US for the Prime Minister's first visit. Canada is also seeking defense ties with the EU. This includes building European jets and also other military equipment. Canadian manufacturers will get more contracts and Ottawa will be less dependent on the US. At least that is the plan. So America's traditional allies are coming together, the likes of Europe, Canada and the UK. The onus is on them to continue the fight. But the question is, can they sustain it? Can they keep supporting Ukraine without American support? I ask because look at what happened on Thursday. The EU leaders hosted a summit in Brussels. The focus was on Ukraine, on how they can help the country, on how they can help Ukraine. The European Union, as you would know, has 27 member states. Most of them agreed on one thing. They agreed that Ukraine needs military aid. But when it came to signing the checks, there was no consensus. Ukraine had asked for 5 billion euros, which is around 5.4 billion US dollars. This money was to buy ammunition. President Zelensky has made this plea personally at the EU summit.
Crucial that your support for Ukraine does not decrease, but instead continues and grows. And this is especially true for air defense, military aid, and our overall resilience. We need funds for artillery shells and would really appreciate Europe's support with at least 5 billion euros as soon as possible.
Zelensky says it's urgent. Yet Europe could not agree on it. And the main reason was two countries, France and Italy, which is strange because French President Emmanuel Macron has been so vocal about European support, about taking its security into its own hands. Yet his government is reluctant, especially to commit to financial resources. France says it is committed to the cause, but their first priority is a different package. A $19 billion G7 loan to Kiev. So loan, not aid. That is what France is prioritizing. And then we have Italy. They have a different issue. They're asking for more technical details. And all of this has delayed the aid package. And it shows that Europe remains stuck in the same cycle. They make ambitious declarations, which is followed by infighting, and which ends with a watered-down compromise, one that pleases no one. Also, this sort of indecisiveness is not new. Since the war began in 2022, Europe has promised over $50 billion in aid, but this support has been slow to come. And even when there is money, the deliveries take forever. Defense contractors take years to fulfill orders, and Ukraine needs the ammunition now. On the other hand, the US had been using a system called drawdown. It allows weapons to be sent directly from American military stockpiles to Kiev. So it's much quicker. But you see, Europe does not have such stockpiles. So sending weapons is a calculated gamble. Who do they prioritize, their own armies or Ukraine's? That is the question that has been plaguing them. So Europe's leaders may talk about standing by Kiev, but their actions clearly fall short. They can't agree on a $5 billion ammunition package. $5 billion. How can they fill the US void? Can Europe sustain Ukraine's defense? If the latest summit is any indicator, the answer is a hesitant and awkward maybe. Do you think that Ukraine is at its weakest position?
This war is not about Ukraine.
Do you believe that your president was insulted? Yes or no question. Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Diplomacy will work?
Yes,
Do you
it
think
will.
Russia will give up the territory if there is no ceasefire? Do you propose to keep fighting?
We are ready to resist.
Do you think there will be peace?
Many countries gave us 3 days.
President Trump said you don't have any cards.
We do not have another choice.
How do you keep fighting?
You ask me once again the same question.
Because you've not answered my question.
We have enough capacities to keep fighting.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister Lakshman.
Good afternoon.
Making headlines in India well before you landed here.
New Delhi has raised concerns in the recent past vis-a-vis the Khalistani separatists that operate in New Zealand. How do you propose to address these concerns?
In our democracy, we believe in the freedom of speech.
Organizations like the Al-Qaeda or ISIS were to hold a referendum in New Zealand, something related to one of your Western partners. Would you say the same?
We have very well-defined laws in our democracy.
No specific conversation on Khalistan on this visit.
It was raised with me. I also raised back our position.
Are you willing to be open to these concerns from New Delhi?
As I keep coming back to you to say, we have strong laws in our system.